Welcome to the Tokoh Nilam 2022. I'm Puan Kamisa, and you?
I'm Nur Aina Natasha binti Muhammad Shukri, and I prefer to be called Aina.
Tell me more about yourself.
I'm 16 years old. I study at SMKPJ, Pekan Pahang. I have 2 siblings, and regarding my ambitions, I don't have any specific ambition yet since I'm still learning, but I'm looking forward to be an educator.
What are your hobbies?
My hobbies are playing musical instruments such as guitar and ukulele. I also enjoy archery, but above all, I love reading.
Yes, you mentioned your passion for reading. Why do you like reading?
I like reading for so many reasons, and one of it is because it divert my attention to not focusing on my problem. And I also inspired by my uncle, who is an avid reader, and he's such a successful businessman.
How many books have you read?
So far, I've read 15 books, including novels and comics.
Wow, that's quite a few. Could you tell me about the 3 books that you have chosen?
These are 3 books that I love the most. The first one is called Beneath. The author of this book is Lincoln Pierce, and the publisher is HarperCollins. It has 448 pages and was published on July 6, 2021. Beneath is about the adventures and misadventures about Nate Wright, an incompetent, spirited, and rebellious 6th grader. He has 2 best friends, Francis and Teddy, who occasionally get in trouble with him, and other characters include a variety of teachers and students at Nate's school, Public School 38. And Nate hates social studies teacher, Mrs. Godfrey, and used to call her the school's Godzilla. He has love and hate relationship with Arthur, the foreign exchange student. And I bought this book at Paradigm Mall bookstore, and it costs 12 ringgit and 50 Malaysian ringgit.
What about the novel Dogman?
Dogman has 231 pages. Dogman is a comedic graphic novel, a series created by American author and cartoonist Dave Pilkey, and was published by Scholastic Corporation. The series is about a dog-headed cop protecting the city he resides in with his friends, and the book series includes 10 books, the first released in 2016 and the latest in 2021. It costs 30 Malaysian ringgit, and I bought it at SMO bookstore.
What made you choose that novel? Is it because of the Dogman? Is it because of the color?
It's because the author is the same author as creator of Captain Underwear, which is a funny genre novels.
Okay, can you tell me about the last book?
The last book, called Diary of a Wimpy Kid. The author of this book is Jeff Kinney, and the publisher is Puffin Books. It has 224 pages and 7 non-reading pages. It's preceded by Diary of a Wimpy Kid, the third wheel, and followed by Diary of a Wimpy Kid, the long haul. Diary of a Wimpy Kid Heart Loud is the 8th book in the Diary of a Wimpy Kid series, and it was released worldwide on Tuesday, November 5, 2013, and the cover shows Greg using his diary to block himself from Magic 8 Ball. And the conflict in this story is Greg being a loner and having no friends, because his only friends Rowley ditch him for a girl. But at the end of the story, Rowley gets down by his girlfriends and goes back being best friend with Greg.
Aina, you seem to love comics. Can you tell me more about the Diary of a Wimpy Kid Heart?
The main object of this novel is the Magic 8 Ball, and the main characters are Greg Hafley, Rowley Jefferson, the main antagonist, Abigail Brown, second antagonist, Mandy Hafley, Susan Hafley, and Frank Hafley. The plot of this story is Greg Hafley is upset over Rowley, as his best friend is more interested in Abigail, though his mother tried to cheer him up by telling friends come and go, but Greg doesn't want that to happen. Since Rowley and Abigail become a couple in previous series book, at the debut of it, the two friends become more and more distant. Very noticeably, even within 9.5 days, there were many things Greg and Rowley used to do together, such as blow bubbles in chocolate milk carton that they can't do now because Abigail is so strict about it. And Greg doesn't like how Abigail is trying to shape Rowley and even believes she is starting to use him. Greg states that if it gets to the point where Rowley isn't allowed his own opinions, Abigail and Rowley just follow Abigail's instruction, many plans such as a snowball fight on a nice day haven't gone ahead, and when Greg confronts Rowley, he taunts Greg by telling him he's just jealous that he has a girlfriend. Rowley was the only one who could bait Greg out of the fact his English teacher, Mr. Blakely, who only accepts essays written in cursive. Also, Rowley would scout ahead and check for any dog poops whilst they are walking to school, but without Rowley, Greg is having to wash out of the poop himself and avoid revel. Greg finds a solution to his luggage, a roller bag. He is able to go to school fast, but there are a few dangers between home and school, such as an angry neighbor whose front lawn got ripped up as a result of game Rowley and Greg played last winter, and woods full of the Mingo kids, the kids who live in the woods and act like wild animals. Mom, Susan Hafley, noticed Greg and Rowley have stopped hanging out and give Greg some advice. Greg, after reading 100 edition of Slumber Party Pulse, realized that girls' friendship and boys' friendship are different and befriends Fragley. He then explains things to Fragley about his lunch table, like the 5-second rule, where anyone can eat anything if it on the floor for 5 or more seconds, and one rule was made. Freddie Harlahan ate a ham, then he got sick. Then he explains the problem in his lunchroom. He criticized the burger and fries that they get. And on Friday, how Nolan Tiago got food from a fast food place and how everybody would fight of getting the fries that fall out of the box, and explain the problem with Sid in his lunchroom. Greg and Rowley once went cycling in a basketball court, and a kid called Leon Feast kicked them out and bullied them because they wanted to play basketball there. Then Greg and Rowley saw the flyers for the superhero training academy and decided to go, which they thought would help them to stand up to Leon, but it turned out to be a scam for little children. Then they learned that their powers were totally useless, and Greg then talks to different groups of people who hang out in recess, including Eric Lee, a kid who has large amount of friends. And Greg explains how Susan never gave them any kind of warning when anybody from her side of the family, aside from Grandma, is coming to visit, feeling that Frank and the boys would probably make a run of it. Then Greg goes on to explain how most of his relatives through Susan's sides of the family live pretty far away, so they don't see them that much outside of her for holidays such as Easter. Greg says that Susan has 5 sisters named Keiki, Gretchen, Veronica, and Audra, but notes that Susan and her sister are all so different from each other that he's kind of shocked that they had all grown up under the same roof. The year that Meemaw passed away, Greg's grandmother, Susan, noticed at the funeral that Mimos wasn't wearing her diamond wedding ring. The ring had been in for the family for a really long time and was worth a lot of money. So when people noticed that the ring was gone, all the relatives became frantic about finding it and eventually started fighting over who would get to keep the ring. This Easter will be the first time since the year that Minnie Mouse died, and then the family gathering for the relative on Susan's side of the family, and upon arriving at Grandma's house, Greg notices that everyone seems really happy and appears to have moved on from what happened the last time they all saw each other. Greg then explains how he gets bored there since he doesn't have anything to occupy himself with, and Greg then have explained the main event of the Easter was brunch and that there were separate tables for adults and kids. He didn't like eating in Grandma's dining room anyway since he thought it was too formal, and he mentioned how at brunch on one year, people had a green bean hanging around his lips and then fall into his glass water, which was pretty funny on its own, but Greg just had to laugh when it fell down into his glass water. Then Frank shot a dirty look on Greg, so he just continued to eat his food. And Aunt Gretchen and her sons were supposed to stay at the Halfleys for a week, but they did only for 2 days since one of the twins had called 911 when the ketchup is run out of stock. Greg was sleeping in Roderick's room on an air mattress, and the next day when he woke up, he found a magic 8-ball under Roderick's bed. He took it and asked it for questions and shook it. Then when the magic 8-ball started giving answers that were reasonable, Greg realized that he could also take advice from it and he would use it to make little decisions in his life. April, Greg starts finding a few limitations of his magic 8-ball, but doesn't give it up. One day, Susan tells him to go outside, but he hides in her closet instead. There he finds a lot of parenting books hidden away. Then Greg used the reverse psychology to convince his parents to get him a phone and gets his mother's old one. And Greg was not allowed to text and had to share the phone with many. Greg downloaded some games and played them until when he was in the bathroom playing games and his Aunt Veronica's video chat came. He got surprised and he dropped the phone into the toilet and he fished it out, but it wasn't working. Then he had a social studies true or false test. He used the magic 8-ball to find the answer, but while doing it so, his magic 8-ball fell down and Mrs. Merritt caught him. Mrs. Merritt thought it was a high-tech cheating device that reported him to Vice Principal Roy, who later called his mother. Susan tried to defend Greg by saying that the magic 8-ball was just a harmless toy and couldn't have been using to cheat. But Mr. Ross said that Greg's grades have been deteriorating and warns him that if they don't improve, he's probably going to school on summer. Greg got back his magic 8-ball because it apparently was broken and would no longer use to give an answer. Then Greg threw it away at Grandma's backyard, and then Greg later was under pressure because he had to do a science project. So he thought about talking to Eric Glee at recess, and Greg told him that he needs a science project, and Eric Glee bring him to the school storage place where Dennis Damon at. and he took Greg to the room where all the science fair projects were to check a project. However, once Greg saw some of the old projects, especially Roderick's middle school project, he started having second thoughts about it. Eric and Danny started to get angry at Greg and told him to pick one of them and pay for them. But he said he didn't have money, and they didn't believe him and told to turn his pocket upside down and to prove, but he ran away before they could catch him. Ultimately, Greg proceeded as originally intended, doing his own science fair project. He ultimately noticed that while it may be greatest project ever, and he's happy to have done one of his own. Aside from that, Greg said that it will be ultimately a good thing that he didn't buy off a project for the science fair. Then Eric clicked with his sketchy friends, and he would give a person an old report homework assignment if they pay enough money. Then Greg talked about how the bully reporting station turned into a find a friend station, and when he pushed the button, no kid came, but a teacher named Mr. Nern came and played checkers with him. Greg then started feeling bad that even his younger brother Manny has a friend, and his grandfather also has a girlfriend, and lots of women trying to win him over, as men are outnumbered by women 10 to 1. He explains how Susan tries to get Greg to make friends by having him have a play date with her old mate's high school senior, and she gave Greg advice to make a friends and be popular, but this didn't help Greg since it was not considered popular in grad school. Greg suddenly thinks of Fregley and thought if he becomes his friend, he can mold him to be the exact friend he wants. Greg thought he could use Fregley as his comic relief to gain popularity. Greg then invites him to his desk lunch and tries to tell him about the rules of the desk, and when Fregley heard about it, he quickly grabbed the chips on Greg's hands and started eating it. And when they on their way back from school to home, they got too close to the Mingo kids, and all of them started chasing them, and Fregley threw all the grad books thinking the kids would read it. And Greg thought since his spring break is coming, he can have some stress break free until Susan tells that her family will come to the town. Dennis and their cronies. Not long after Greg ran away from them, someone tipped off a teacher, and a bunch of faculty members staged a raid on storage room where all the old homework assignments and science projects are kept. Greg claims that all the students who got caught have detention for the rest of the school, and he also figures that they probably have to go to summer school as well. The day before the science fair, Greg worked on his project right after the school. He thought he was finished with the project, but Susan went over the rules and found out that his project would be typed. Greg thought of doing the typing part in the morning, but woke up late and didn't have time to do it. He actually found out that the project had been typed his mother and tried to thank her, but Susan was already asleep. After finally turning his project, Greg was able to enjoy himself throughout the day. Rowley, however, doesn't enjoy himself. Greg discovers that just a week after being voted cutest couple, and in the yearbook, Abigail dumped Rowley. rather coldly at that, and got back together with her last boyfriend, Michael Sampson. And then Greg reveals that he heard another rumor saying that Abigail was never actually into Rowley, who still appears to be traumatized by Abigail, but she just used Rowley to make Michael jealous. During recess, Greg finds Rowley at the Find a Friend station and is about to go up to him, but Mr. Nern beat him to it. Greg then starts to think that he and Rowley just be better being friends, but seeing Rowley play checkers with Mr. Nern made him feel guilty. So he decides to go to a place where he could get the only answer. Greg has his grandma betrayed backyard and find his magic 8 ball, and then the book ends with him acknowledge whilst what Susan said about friends coming is going while family is forever may be true to some event, but he also notes that his family won't be here when the Mingo kids chase him. And he also says that he's pretty sure he and Rowley will probably fight another day, but they're still best friends.
Wow, there was a lengthy explanation of the plot. Well, talk about the advantages. I believe there are many advantages you can find in the novel. Could you please share some with us?
Some of the advantages that I found in this book is we can be friends with everyone, and we don't do bullies because it's such a not good habit for teenagers at school.
Well, every story has its moral value. Is there any moral value of the story?
The moral value about this book is to always believe in friendship, but never ever left family behind.
You mentioned that your uncle has inspired you into reading. Would you inspire others into reading?
I would love to inspire others to reading too, because when you love reading, you have a lot of advantage, such as you can know lots of knowledge, you can be knowledgeable, you know lots of things, you can explain to your friends, you can teach your friends, and so on.
Okay, Aina, we have come to an end of our interview session for the Tokoh Nilam 2022. Thank you for sharing the information with us, and see you next time.
Welcome.